How stupid do you have to be a global terrorist who has vowed to first annihilate Israel and then move on to destroying America? Assuming you're dumb enough to be such a despicable monster, how much more stupid do you have to go to a public inauguration of Iran's new dictator along with a bunch of other stupid global terrorists? Well, Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, is one such terrorist, or should I say was, because he's dead. Yep, that's right. Even though Israel rarely claims responsibility for the elimination of high-level terrorists around the world, it's not hard to figure out who was behind the airstrike that took out Hamas's #1 leader in the last 24 hours. Israel, by the way, did take responsibility for taking out Hezbollah's #2 leader in Lebanon today. Israel may have just single-handedly done more to win the war against terror in the Middle East in the last 24 hours than anybody has done in the last decade. I'm Luke Hilton, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Proverbs 11:10 says, "When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there are shouts of gladness." Guys, it's okay to rejoice when the enemies of God, the enemies of the Bible, and the enemies of God's people die. And that's exactly what's happened in the last 24 hours. Israel has taken out two high-level terrorists that are all connected to Iran. We're going to get into those details, but mainly we're going to get into what is the mainstream media not telling you about this story. You know what's interesting? Somebody in Israel, and I'll be honest, I don't even know who printed this. I do know that these were printed in the kibbutz of Be'eri, which is one of the 4 communities that was most horrifically affected on October 7th, more than 100 people killed there. But it's also home to one of Israel's largest print companies. They printed these deck of cards, which is Hamas, ISIS, most wanted terrorists, basically. And so now that Israel's taken out 2 more senior level terrorists around the world, I thought maybe I'd check in on this deck of cards. And I figured out, there's a lot of these guys that were alive on October 7th and they're no longer. But what's interesting, and obviously, you have Ismail Haniyeh, who was just taken out in Tehran in Iran amongst these. And by the way, these are just amazing, grotesque caricatures of these terrorists depicting who they really are. And at the top of the list on terrorists that might still be alive, you have Yahuwah Sinwar, who is depicted as a rat tunnel, because that's exactly who he is. And that's the only way he's actually still alive, or potentially alive right now, is because he's a rat hiding in tunnels hundreds of feet under the ground, and he never appears because he knows the second he does, Israel will take them out. But if I was any of these guys, Yahuwah Sinwar, if I was Fatih Hamad, if I was Khaled Mashal, if I was Abu Obadiah, and I'm not sorry for butchering your names, actually, because you're monsters. If I was Musa Abu Marzik, I'd be pretty scared, because Israel's on a roll right now, or somebody's on a roll, because Israel doesn't normally take credit for these types of eliminations. But yes, somebody's on a roll right now, and your days are numbered. So Ismail, what actually happened is you have Ismail Haniyeh, who went to Iran with a bunch of other world terrorist leaders to celebrate the inauguration of Iran's new president. Now, I'm not going to get into that story, but I want to tell you what the media is not saying. Because now, first of all, Ismail Haniyeh, Yahuwah Sinwar, they're like the 2 leaders of Hamas, right? One of them is more like the political leader, one's more like the military leader. Ismail Haniyeh, he's more the political leader, right? He goes to Iran. He's staying in a building in Tehran, Iran's capital, for the inauguration of Iran's new president. And what happens? A targeted, pinpointed airstrike takes out him and his bodyguards. Now, Israel has not commented on this yet, but some of Israel's Knesset members and ministers have commented, actually going against directives by the prime minister, because obviously they're trying to be very careful about what they say and don't say. Some of Israel's Knesset members and government leaders could not help themselves but make some statements about how this is a very good thing that this guy was eliminated. Because obviously, who is he? He was he was like the mastermind behind October 7th, one of the main masterminds behind October 7th that killed 1,200 people, saw 5,000 injured, 251 hostages taken into captivity in Gaza. Gaza, some of them still in captivity today. So this is the guy responsible, right? And so Israel or the free world had an opportunity to eliminate him, and obviously they did. Now, at the same time, because everybody knows the war is ramping up against Hezbollah in Lebanon, right? And Hezbollah is a much more highly trained, highly funded, more organized terrorist group than Hamas is, with something like 100,000 missiles and rockets aimed at Israel. And there's been war going on for months and months now, but it hasn't escalated to full-scale war, right? Well, last week, or earlier this week, you have the rocket that Hezbollah fired hit an Israeli Druze village that killed 12 children, hit a soccer field, and injured 30 more. Israel quickly figured out Hezbollah is responsible. They figured out the guy responsible, and guess what? They struck a building in Lebanon today that contained Hezbollah's number 2 leader. And in a very rare move, Daniel Hagari, the spokesman for the IDF, actually came out publicly and said, we take responsibility for this. We are very glad to eliminate this guy. But here's a little bit about him first. According to Rutsheva, as the head of Hezbollah's strategic unit, this is Fuad, it was the name of the Hezbollah leader, was responsible for the majority of Hezbollah's most advanced weaponry, including precise guided missiles, cruise missiles, anti-ship missiles, long-range rockets, and UAVs. He was responsible for force buildup, planning, and execution of terror attacks against the state of Israel. He also joined the Hezbollah organization in 1985 and has held a number of senior positions. And as part of his role, he was a member of the Jihad Council. Jihad, holy war, right? According to Islam. As part of his role, he's a member of the Jihad Council, Hezbollah's most senior military forum. And according to some sources, he is Hezbollah's number 2 senior leader. Now, obviously, he was responsible for the Druze village attack that killed 12 children. But what the media won't tell you, I can almost guarantee you this, is he played a key role in the 1983 U.S. barracks bombing in Beirut, in which 241 American soldiers were killed. The American government right now had a $5 million bounty on this guy's head. Now, the question is, especially since Israel has come out publicly to take credit for his assassination, is America going to pay up? Are they going to? Is Israel going to go claim the $5 million bounty from the American government for taking this guy out? I don't know. I think they should, for sure. Or maybe they could. Anyways, but I think it's just incredible that in the space of 24 hours, Israel has now eliminated Hamas, the Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh, or most likely they were behind it, even though they're not taking credit, right? And at the same time eliminated Hezbollah's number 2 leader, who's not only responsible for a massacre inside of Israel, he's responsible for overseeing a large part of Hezbollah's terrorist infrastructure and network, but he's also responsible for killing almost 250 American soldiers in 1983, and America also wanted this guy dead, right? So before full-scale war has actually broken out with Lebanon and Hezbollah, Israel has already eliminated the number 2 figure in the terrorist organization. The question is, will this be enough to stave off full-scale war with Hezbollah and Lebanon? That remains to be seen. But right now, Israel they've spent the last 10 months fighting Hamas in Gaza, fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon, fighting the Houthis in Yemen, and now they've just done more to win this war than anybody's done to win the war against terror in the Middle East in probably a decade. The horrific Hamas massacre of over 1,200 Israelis on October 7th was not just an attack on the Jewish people. It was an attack on the Bible itself. As anti-Israel hatred spills into the streets worldwide, an unholy alliance of Islamic jihadists and anti-Bible woke progressives has united to wage war against God's word. Israel and the Jews are first. America and Christians are next. That's why my very good friend, Rabbi Eli Michel here in Israel, he wrote a brand new book, and I'm super excited to read it. It's called The War Against the Bible, Ishmael, Esau, and Israel at the End Times. I think this is a must-read for every Bible believer. Rabbi Eli Michel takes a deep dive into the prophecies of the Bible to explain current events and humanity's rebellion against the one true God. This book will steel your resolve to fight for the Bible's truth and to be watchmen for salvation who stand up against lies and darkness. Guys, I would very much encourage you to get your copy of The War Against the Bible today. You can click that link in the description below and join the fight for God, Israel, and ironically, probably the very soul of America. I definitely encourage you, get a copy of this brand new book. Super excited for it. Click that link in the description below. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari said, quote, "We eliminated the most senior commander in Hezbollah, Nasrallah's right-hand man. We will not allow harm to civilians in Hezbollah's activity near the border. We do not seek a war, but we were well prepared for it. Hezbollah is dragging Lebanon into escalation. We have scenarios for all the arenas and all the events. Our preparedness is very high, and there's no need to provide any more details to our enemy." Now, quickly, because this is key, right? Do you think the mainstream media is covering these stories? Now, you might see the headlines, but here's what the mainstream media definitely will not tell you. Number one, Hamas's number one man was eliminated in Tehran. What are the reaction from other world leaders? Well, I can tell you what the reaction is from Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas, who said, quote, he said the elimination of the Hamas chief was a, quote, cowardly act and dangerous development. Now, the reason why I mention this is, number one, you won't hear it in the media, but number two, did you hear about when he sent Trump a letter a couple of weeks ago saying that he was very glad Trump was okay after the attempted assassination attempt, and he just wished Trump the best and wished him well, and Trump actually commented that he received a very nice note from Abbas. Does that line up with him saying, quote, that eliminating the Hamas chief was a, quote, cowardly act and dangerous development? Just so you guys know, this guy is a two-faced apple. He says one thing in English to Western democracies and leaders like Donald Trump, and another thing when his partner terrorist organization head, Ismail Haniyeh, is eliminated in Tehran. Media is not going to tell you that. What they also won't tell you is that the reason why this Hamas chief was in Tehran is that he was part of a friend group, apparently. We're talking about Hamas's political leader, Palestinian Islamic Jihad leader Ziad al-Nakhala, Hezbollah Deputy Secretary General Naim Qassem, and spokesman of the Houthi rebels in Yemen, Mohammed Abdul Salam. All these guys, 4 different terrorist groups, attending the inauguration of Iran's new dictator president. Right now, the big question is, what do these 4 groups have in common? Well, you guessed it, a number of things. Number 1, they're all terrorists. Number 2, they're all committed to the destruction of Israel. Number 3, they're committed to the destruction of America. And number 4, they're all proxies of Iran, meaning they're funded, trained, and backed by the murderous terrorist dictatorship entity and country of Iran. If you find that in the mainstream media, please let me know in the comment section below, because I don't think they're talking about it. Now, and also, what we already talked about is I don't think the media is going to tell you that this Hezbollah leader, Vowed, who was eliminated by Israel in Lebanon, played a key role in murdering almost 250 Americans in 1983. Doubt that's going to make the mainstream media headlines. 2 Samuel 22:38 and 39 says, "I pursued my enemies and crushed them. I did not turn back till they were destroyed. I crushed them completely, and they could not rise. They fell beneath my feet." That's a promise to the nation of Israel, promise to the Jewish people, and that promise is being remembered by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And as people who believe in the Bible, we're Christian Zionists, we're Americans, we can align ourselves with God's word and with the forces of good working against the forces of evil. And you guys can join that fight for God's kingdom today. Guys, don't forget to pick up your copy of The War Against the Bible by clicking that link in the description below. Brand new book, super excited about it. And let me know what you think about today's topic and current events from the last 24 hours in the comment section below. As always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what is happening in Israel. We're here nearly every single day with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel. I believe that our faith is in trouble. The world is attacking us from every side, and internally, many are giving in to the cultural attacks from the world or simply watering down their faith so that they're more accepted. That's why we wrote and published a book called Facing Jerusalem: God's Plan for Global Redemption. Here are a few of the critical issues that this book addresses. Western culture is attacking Christianity. Facing Jerusalem calls for a return to our faith that originated in the Holy Land of Israel. Biblical principles are being traded for prosperity doctrine. This book challenges Christians to follow the call of Jesus to rise up with bold faith in our generation. Young people are leaving the faith of their childhood. Facing Jerusalem challenges believers to make biblical principles guiding factors in our life today. Award-winning singer-songwriter Michael Card had this to say after reviewing Facing Jerusalem. He said, quote, "I worked through the manuscript and want you to know that you've done a great job taking your readers to the next level of understanding the foundation and ongoing debt we have to Israel and Judaism." After reading the book, Janet wrote this review online, quote, "If I did not already agree with the premise of the authors, I surely would be convinced of these truths after reading their book. They back up their points with many biblical quotes. I would like to share this book with all my Christian friends." You can purchase Facing Jerusalem at facingjerusalemthebook.com or click the link down in the description below. Just enter the promo code Jerusalem for 10% off. It's time to experience revival in our biblical faith, and we believe that a key ingredient to that is spiritually and physically facing Jerusalem. Go to facingjerusalemthebook.com or click the link in the description below to order a copy today. You can also get it on Amazon.